Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Ground Up Podcast. My name is Matt Walton, here with my co-host as always, Matt Uber. How you doing?
Living the dream, brother. Living the dream.
Awesome, man. We've been really diving in a lot into AI lately, and we have a product that we're hoping to launch here in the next month or so. But we also just want to learn more about it and talk to a lot of people who are deep into AI, deep in technology, and learning more because it's ever growing, it's ever evolving. We talk to new people every single day. It seems like who has an insane product that we're like, you would never even think that this is even possible. And it's being done constantly. So we have another guest like that today. Rick Anderson, how you doing?
Good, Matt. How you doing, Matt and Matt?
Yeah, we're doing good. Very good. So in a we talked about this a little bit in a short as you can because I know how salespeople are. What do you do? What's your company about? And then let us know. Let's go from there.
So yeah, basically Care Advisors is distilling 30 years of my sales leadership experience and where that meets automation. I was having a conversation just prior to this talking about, I came on board when client server was coming up and cloud and then as a service and, all of that I did as a means to an end. But with AI, it just really captured me because I saw how different my career and the people that reported up through me and all of the different tangents could be impacted. So I started to study, still provide a resource hub and tools and really, what we address, you talked about, tools and products coming out. I saw a stat that 600 come out every month. 600, you can't keep up with it, right? And I think the adoption rate, the understanding of AI is hovering around 40%. So there's a lag there. The return on investment can be exponential.
Yeah. Do you think that 40% is mostly just including like just people who use ChatGPT?
What was that?
Do you think that 40% of people who adopt AI, is it just people who use ChatGPT, you think, or is it like actual adoption of products and AI services?
I'd have to dig into that. I don't think, even when I'm meeting with technology sales folks, I'm surprised at how little they're doing with AI.
That's why I was so surprised about 40% because I just feel like if they're counting like people just go on ChatGPT and it's like, what, answer a question or ask for like research. If that counts as 40%, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I try to address the hype and the chaos. That's really what we solve for. It's just coming at you. If you go to my website, you see a young lady and there's just information flying off her screen and she's getting blown away. And we try to measure that with literacy and clarity. So we've got a number of tools. We can go down into that rabbit hole anytime you want. But yeah, so that's who I am, and I'm loving it.
I love your approach to it though, because a lot of people get scared about AI. They're like, oh my God, AI is coming, my jobs are taken care of. And they just put their hands up and they go like that. But you're like, I see AI coming. I see what's going to happen. I'm going to learn more about it. And those people who take the time to do that, AI is going to be amazing in their lives and it's going to explode their lives. People who are run from it and scared are going to be the ones in trouble.
Yeah, it's a culture shift, and that's going to take a lot of work, and we try to solve for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So so tell us a little bit. So if somebody who's your ICP on your business here, somebody who's like, all right, I'm looking for a solution, what would be the person and client you're looking for that would use Care Advisors?
I would say mid-market companies. Like one of my best customers right now is a life sciences company. They're about 500 million, very sophisticated sales team. They're selling directly to doctors. They're selling products and services. They've got to have a very good understanding of life sciences. And it's very much an old school, face-to-face. You're coming in with some sophisticated information, and you've got to establish trust very quickly. If there's budget and there's need, then that's who we want to talk to.
What would you say is right now, you guys are mentioning 600 come out every month, 40% adoption. I think that's a low number, not the adoption, but I think the how many come out. I mean, in the past 7 days, I've talked to 3 or 4 people that used to be coworkers or peers of mine that have all started their own AI company and they're building this AI thing and everybody's going to be denying the way that you do it. And I come from a world, Rick, of the automotive industry and
so do I.
Great. There you go. And there are already today hundreds of companies that are attempting to present themselves as the AI solution. And I would tell you, out of those 100, I would say 95% of them suck. Do you agree with that assessment? Would you say that as somebody who analyzes and studies AI and the adoption of utilizing AI into a company's business, that most of them suck and we're going to go through a phase of having to weed out the bullshit before we actually get to the people who will then come out of the fray? Hey guys, I know, another interruption. I wanted to make sure you guys knew of our website for Spinwheel. A lot of people who watch these videos want to find out more about everything that we do because they hear and know that Matt and I have our hands in a lot of different things, from real estate to BDC, automotive, sales, SDRs, consultant, everything there. If you want to know more about what we do, I'd love for you guys to join our website, spinwheelsales.com. Feel free to check us out.
I agree wholeheartedly, and you'd be surprised who does suck. The legacy, when I look at CRM systems, right? I grew up with Salesforce. I was a Salesforce user for 20 years. And they've got Einstein. The big ships turn slowly, right? It used to be the big would consume the small. And now it's the quick consume the slow. And there's some, the sales platform I use, the CRM system I use, didn't exist 5 years ago. And it's by far better than anything I've ever used.
Do you mind me asking what it is?
It's called Launchpad. It's from a company called Copilot Innovations. It was built by salespeople for salespeople that has the automation built right in. So if you've got a 30-year-old CRM or 20 or 10-year-old CRM from a large enterprise organization, they're not going to really be able to install AI as efficiently. They're busy selling what they built already. Versus, what if you look at another good analogy is this. If you look at Twitter took 5 years to get to 1 million users. ChatGPT took 5 days. So, the adoption. So when you talk about chaos and hype, that's you're speaking right to my heart. And so we built an agnostic partner ecosystem where I can come in and meet with a client and say, implementations are going south, left, and right. You don't want to be that company, right? So let's go in, let's see where you're at, let's measure that. Let me introduce you to what's possible. And then I've got partners. What I did, is I sat through all of those sessions, hundreds of sessions, and some of them I just said, wow, this is good. And so I started to really, I do screenshots. A lot of what you see on my website is just repurposed information that I thought was fantastic. But they'll come in right with me when the time's right and sit down with the customer and say, look, we're not selling you. And that's a big thing. One, will they take my call if I need them this afternoon to meet with a client? They're going to be on my partner list. But also, do they come in and truly just want to serve and show what's possible? They'll do proof of concepts, they'll do pilots, demos. And so it gives the customer a chance to breathe. And then what I really want to look at, a guy named Connor Grennan, I don't know if you're familiar with Connor. He's out of NYU. He's their chief AI architect. He talks about the culture shift. He talks about if you want to get in shape, people put a treadmill in their basement, right? That's not going to change anything. We can put AI in every company on the planet. If they're not going to use it and adopt it, and if you're not going to measure and hold them accountable for using it and adopting it, it's a waste of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say, Rick, as you meet with all these companies who just want to show you what they do? What's the most common mistake these companies are making that they're not factoring in that you're helping them fix?
I don't know that there's a common mistake. I would say that not coming in with leadership buy-in is a big mistake. And that maybe trying to bite off more than they should chew. They should go with a high ROI, low risk investment. So when I tell them where to focus is what's the lowest risk and what's going to be something that's going to capture the board or the leadership's attention that, wow, we impacted that. And there's a lot of chatter around AI is cutting jobs, right? And it's certainly cutting jobs as much as an electric chainsaw cut jobs for people that were using hand saws. It just made them more efficient. People that didn't adopt the electric chainsaw, they were out of a job. So we want to teach them, I would hope that instead of, a vacuum for the entry, and this is a whole nother rabbit hole. We've got people coming out of college, coming out of high school that can't get that initial job. I'd rather see, that entry-level job become something that thrives because of AI, not in spite of it. So start to train for that and bring them up. And those are the fresh minds and move them along. I would say trying to jump in, to go back to your original question, jumping in too fast without truly understanding what the landscape is and what you're trying to measure. First thing I want to know is, where do you think you're at? And I'll sit in with the leaders and with, even the individual sales folks. And many times they're ranking themselves 3 out of 10, and they might even be generous at that. And by the time I leave, I would hope they'd be at 8 or 9.
Right. Is it better for these customers that come in and are looking to adopt AI into their business? Are you seeing that they should just take care of low-level tasks with AI, or are you taking this AI and implementing a whole new thing within their business?
All of the above. Now, I'm not coming in to show them how to just automate sales calls. For me, I spent weekends for years, taking notes about my sales calls and putting them in a CRM. So that's certainly an easy one, right? You can record your calls, you can dump it right into the CRM. But I'd also like to see, what is your CRM showing? Who's being successful and why? And what's the next predictive indicator of who you should, are we focusing even on the right prospects, And so there's certainly a lot of different tangents that we can look at, but, I can't say that there's a magic bullet as to, hey, let's do this, don't do that. But I can tell pretty quickly if leadership has been studying it or not, and whether or not they're going to be successful with the path they think they're on.
If the leadership's not studying it, is there a trick to get them to buy in? I mean, I think that AI is such a common conversation in today's landscape, and especially in business. I mean, I would get 2 or 3 years ago a hesitation around AI, but I can't imagine many leaders not completely trying to figure out the efficiency, effectiveness, and value proposition of AI. I mean, is there still a lot of hesitation on that? Hey, Ground Up listeners, sorry to interrupt the podcast. I did want to share with you guys, I've just recently opened up a completely open school community. We've been utilizing school for over a year for some of our internal employees. I've taken a lot of my courses from SDR trainings, AE trainings, leadership trainings, sales leadership and coaching trainings, and I've opened it up to the general public. So I will add into our bio a link to the school program. And if you want to learn more about what we do and exactly how to be better at sales, feel free to take a look. Rick?
There isn't so much hesitation as there is misinformation. There's a lot of fear. There's fear of missing out, certainly. You don't want to be the last company in your sector that finally got it. But there's also fear of failure. We're seeing, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing companies that just kind of, we've got Tim in IT that knows AI, we're going to try to, it's just, they go south, and then you've got an uphill battle trying to sell that to the board or whoever it is that's those investments are coming through.
Do you think it's a little bit of overload too? Because like you said, 600 some companies every day or every month, whatever it is. Like you don't know which ones to go with, which ones are good, which ones are not. A little bit of overload on what to do. And there's so many different things that AI can do at the same time.
Yeah. It's even an issue for me, right? If I could do anything all day, it would just be study AI. I love to study it and then distill it. I grew up selling. I think and teaching. My original goal in college was to become a professor. So I think I can convey knowledge, but yeah, it's hard to keep up with. And so when somebody says on their LinkedIn profile they're an AI expert,
Kind of the way I view that, Rick, and it sounds like maybe you do as well, is AI has not been around long enough for anybody to be an expert at it.
No.
No. You could be an interested party in AI. You could be a student of AI. But to classify a mastery of anything, I just don't know if it's been around long enough in the current form it's in for anybody to be an expert. I mean, maybe you disagree. Maybe you might classify yourself an expert based off of the amount of time you've spent studying it and learning it. But the way I look at it is, man, what AI was a year ago is so different than what AI is today. I mean, Grok just came out with the new introduction to it just this weekend, and it will continue to grow. And so I think that you have to be a student of it, but it's really hard for me to digest the idea of somebody being an expert at it. What do you think?
Yeah. And, I tell people, they say, 30 years experience in sales. It's not so much, you don't want to work with me because of what I know, but because of who I know. I've spent some time really trying to dial in the right companies that I think are doing it right. Now, you mentioned the automotive industry, right? So I'm from Dearborn, Michigan, and I grew up selling to the automotives, right? But
Henry companies over there, right? Just a one or two.
Yeah, a couple, right? And you talk about an explosion. So, turn of the century, there's a quote, and there's an argument whether it's really from Henry Ford or not, but I go with that since I'm from Dearborn. And he says, if I would have asked the people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So people they can't even conceptualize what's possible here. And so, I have a friend who calls me an AI Sherpa, right? And I like that because a Sherpa, if I'm taking you up Everest, you might die. I can't guarantee it. I'm doing the best I can, right? There's a lot of information, but I'm not telling you ahead of time that you're not going to die. I'm telling you, here's how we're going to prepare. And if you don't prepare correctly, you may die. Yeah. So, expertise, it's coming at us too fast.
Rick,
But I
as I
love
hear
it.
you say that, I think you made a statement that you said, you don't hire me as a sales coach because what I know. And I think of like, you shouldn't hire me as an AI consultant because what I've learned. You should hire me as a AI consultant because how I can learn. And I think that's probably more important, knowing that
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of content before so I can learn more content in the future.
Basically saying it's more important because one of the things that we look for in an AI business when we have people is people who are obsessed with stuff. And just our company, like, are you obsessed with what you're doing? In AI, I think that what you've learned before, it doesn't really matter because you could learn stuff throughout another job and had it. But if you're obsessed with it and you're constantly learning more and more information about it, especially with AI because of how much it's changing every day, it seems like every minute. We talk about this, the guy who said this on the podcast that we had a couple of weeks ago. He said that AI is the worst it's ever going to be right now.
That's
And
a good way to put it.
right. And so you have to be obsessed with it because it continues to grow. And so if you're not obsessed with it, you're going to get left behind. And so I'm sure you believe the same thing is how you're learning about it, how you're staying on top of it.
Yeah. And there's certain thought leaders that I can't follow everybody, right? But there's three that every morning I wake up and I look at what they're putting out. And one of them I mentioned was Connor Grennan. Charlie Hills out of London. He's an AI content pro. I mean, he puts out data, facts, trends, insights. If you just followed those two guys, you'd have a pretty good understanding of how this is evolving. And there's another gentleman, Scott Galloway. He's also out of NY, but he puts out, a lot of great content. So if you're trying to stay up the, snuff on things, find out who you like to follow and just dig in every morning. I just can't wait every morning to see what's going on.
Right, right. Yeah, we just interviewed, I just talked about this on the last one we did too, interviewed a guy who has an interview AI where like you can literally have this interview AI comes onto a chat, like it's not an actual chat bot, but it's actually on a Zoom call. It's an AI person that will have the entire interview and it takes in all the information. It can determine if you're going to be a good fit or not. It can get you the information onto it and it's done you can do, hundreds of interviews at one time to get the right candidate by all the data that gets and collects from that and brings it back over to you. And like, I would never thought of that to use an AI to do that.
Yeah, the technology is insane because it can measure how engaged you are, how you sound when you're responding. It's fantastic.
I think even one step further, the part that I loved about it, Rick, is let's just say Matt's my top employee and I want 10 more Matts to be fined. You can send the AI interview bot to go interview Matt to learn about all of his intrinsic things that make Matt so special as an employee. And then it can create a profile based off of Matt to go find the candidates who check the majority of the boxes that make Matt so special. Now, I would never want an AI to duplicate him because that's another problem in itself. But if I did, it can do that. I just thought that's like, man, when you've really narrowed in to the traits you want in a personality for a role, to have that capability of cloning those skill sets and looking for them in an interview is great.
Well, while I'm nodding in agreement, I'm also remembering that AI can hallucinate. It can overstep authority. It can, there's failure cascades. So what we do with the automation and the capabilities of AI, the human component has got to be, in lockstep. And, the best analogy I have with that is, if we consider AI a jet aircraft, you want to be the one piloting the aircraft, not leaving it on autopilot, because that can. But yeah, we're gonna learn a lot. We're gonna skin our knees a little bit, but having the right folks around you to guide you is certainly critical.
So the angle of this, we just started a third season of our podcast, and every season we kind of have a different focus of emphasis. And In season 1, we kind of interviewed a lot of the people that we know, and we talked about their story in regards to becoming an entrepreneur. And it was very much of an interview and tell your story and learn the mindset of a person who can grow to become a successful entrepreneur. Season 2 was really a educational season for us. We had about 5 or 6 different AI companies. We had people who specialized in sales and other different things that we just wanted to continue to learn about. And season 3, which we've just started recording for, is going to be focused around the entrepreneur. And so we've already talked about that entrepreneur where so many of them are AI centric. But if we just avoid talking about the AI centric businesses and we say you are an entrepreneur who's got a great product, you're in your first year or two, you're still under 10 employees, and you're under that phase 1 of revenue. You've proved the concept, but you've not gotten to the point where you're taking on funding and you're elevating. If you had to advise somebody, Rick, in that stage of their career, in that stage of their building the business, where would you say are the 3 most valuable AI tools the average entrepreneur would be able to use to make their entrepreneur journey the most effective?
Wow, what a zinger. You could have at least emailed me that one.
Sorry.
That's a great. So yeah, I'll try to answer that the way you put it. But I've been involved with 6 different startups, right? And I tell people also, you want to hire me for my failures as much as my successes. 2 of them did very well, and others we learned a lot from. Certainly, I built Kira Advisors solely, I shouldn't say solely, but I siloed what I'm doing with Kira in OpenAI, right? In ChatGPT. So it's got the institutional knowledge of my company. So as you see all these tools coming at you and you see the next shiny object, that may not work to your advantage. What I can do in ChatGPT right now is say, please review everything we've talked about for 3 years. Tell me about Care Advisors. Then do a study of the industry. So I use Perplexity for personal use, right? And not to go too far down on all the different platforms, but if I'm driving, I live in Northwest New Jersey, a ton of history here. Lots of green signs. It says, 1701. So I'll drive past it. I won't stop. I'll say, ask Perplexity a question. What do you want to ask? I'm on 517 in this, and I see this. It'll tell me all about it. So I use that for personal use. I've got other tools that I'll use. Like Claude is just the best writing. So I'll develop something in ChatGPT, and then I'll second guess it with Claude. And many times Claude improves it. So certainly, whatever you're going to use AI for, be careful what you pick, number one. Silo it. Make sure you've got institutional knowledge in one, because you can't necessarily transfer that to the next tool. And certainly, don't make the mistake of feeling like if you don't have the next best tool that's coming out there that you're necessarily behind, because it could be that 2 years from now we find out that tool was really going down the wrong path. And when I actually made ChatGPT an officer of my company.
There you go.
So I tell it, look, you've got a lot at stake here. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And it does a lot of the research for me. So I don't know how many of those check marks you got out of all that, but now personally, if we're not talking about AI, the companies that I've been with in a startup that have done well is because we had the right partners. So, don't be afraid to look back and go, all right, we might have not quite the right personnel on board here. Trying to carry that can hurt you. But, I was in the workforce management industry for 20 years, and company, it was 3 of us sitting around a round table in a law firm because it was one of the partners' brothers. We grew that into 150 people, about 15 million in revenue. And it was because one person was I called her the lead singer, very beautiful, very well spoken. We had another person who was just a master recruiter. And then I was really just the marketing, sales, operations person. And it just was the perfect storm of people. Whether or not you're going to try to address that with AI, as I have, by making it an officer of your company, I can't say. But that's the biggest lesson that I've ever learned in any of my startup experiences.
I'm hearing more and more about that. I think that's a good point to make with people starting it. Like, go ahead and get Chat GPT or any of those involved in your business right away. Because what I've seen a lot of people do, and here, and Matt told me about people who do this too, is they just tell it everything about their business. And now you have something that has no shortage of knowledge across everything, telling you what steps to take. I mean, it can literally take in information way faster than you ever could. So it's like you're just having conversation with that over and over again about how you're going to grow your business like you would a mentor or somebody else.
Here's the thing. It knows more about my company than I do because I
Right.
forget. It doesn't forget.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. And so, Rick, as you go down that path, I'll add a couple of things that I've learned. And as you say it, I've told Matt about it. I've said to myself, I'm going to do it. I didn't make the time to do it. But what I'm going to do, and I'll commit this to my audience as well, to our audience as well, which is over this weekend, I'm going to invest at least 10 hours teaching ChatGPT about my business. I'm going to establish 4 positions of board members with different personality traits and profiles, and I'm going to document every part of it. I'm going to create content and a video around this so that you guys can see it, and then I will update that content around that. But yeah, I heard that on a podcast that you go in, you essentially just go for a long walk and just talk to ChatGPT, and like it's going to make it look like you're a crazy lunatic out there on the streets just talking to yourself. But tell ChatGPT everything you need to know. Ask it, what question do you need to know to be able to be the most informed? And it'll give you these instructions on how to guide it and fill these gaps. And then the idea they had is explain what your role is, explain what your partner Matt's role is, and then say, here are the gaps I have in here. What should I be doing? Create a board of advisors that have different personality traits, some that are supportive, some that are argumentative, some that are difficult, some that are not. Being able to fill all of your gaps, because what I heard you say just now, Rick, is in that company you had 3 dynamically talented people, but you guys all had 3 advantage strengths that you brought to that one single table, so that you weren't stepping on each other's toes in regards to your strengths, but you were leveraging your strengths against others' weaknesses. And together you guys made a super team. And in the world where you are a founder of a startup and you're a small team and you don't have the financial ability to bring in all of these advisors, go create your advisors to do that. I would say another thing that popped into my head, which is what you said as well, which is different platforms have different value. I heard Gary Vee, who's really, really talking a lot about AI, and I also hear Dan Martell talk a lot about this as well. Neither of them are NYU graduates, so maybe they don't relate as well to you, Rick, but they both are talking about asking ChatGPT once a week, what are the 3 most innovative updates in AI that are new this week, and what is their specialty? What do they do? And I would advise all of the people who watch this, stay abreast of that. And there is a difference between AI platforms and AI tools. Most of the AI tools are built on just a few platforms, but it doesn't mean that there's different tools under those platforms that are about. But like ChatGPT, everybody knows that name, but ChatGPT has a variety of different tools, from a large language model to an image creation model to a lot of different tools under its umbrella, along with Gemini, Grok, Perplexity. All of these different things are different platforms that have different tools to use. And then we have different companies that are building tools that are now a software that are utilizing AI. And so I think the number one thing that a founder of a startup can do right now is to just go spend time digesting and downloading all of your information, your knowledge, your company's knowledge, the transparency of your team, your gaps, your strengths, your advantages, and then spend time every day having a conversation with them like you would your partner. Matt and I evolve our business 10 times more when we talk every day versus when we go a week without talking because we're so busy, we don't have time to think, plan, and execute. Talking to ChatGPT or whatever AI platform you decide to do this with, I think will help. Matt, I assume you haven't taken the time to do this yet either, but when I shared that idea with you, did you do it? Did you think about it? What were your
This past week at Spinwheel, we made one of the toughest decisions in our whole time of being in business. We decided to shut down an over 6-month development project around AI. Let me explain to you why we did this. So over the past 6 months, my business partners and I decided to invest into AI. We brought in a couple of really, really skilled developers. We started to build out AI in a way as we anticipated all of the advancements coming in AI. Now, in the meantime, I was still meeting with a bunch of companies and identifying all the different advances to learn as much as I could about AI. And even though we still have a version of AI that we're going live with in our real estate division, the original plan we had has shifted pretty heavily. I anticipated finding partners that I could build the AI out with real estate first, then taking it, the foundation of what we build, and then building an SDR bot, building a BDC bot, taking everything I know in my over 15 years of sales training and leadership and building it inside of an AI bot. But we decided not to do that. There are so many people who've already figured this process out, and I still think that I've got a world of value to offer to a company out there. I am now shifted my focus to, instead of building it, and which is not something I'm strong at, not something I know how to do, I'm trying to find an incredible builder, somebody who can partner directly with me to build the software that I want to have, that I can count on to build me what I need to build, that can leverage all of my years of experience in teaching, training, coaching, SDRs, BDRs, BDC reps, and even account executives. So if you have an AI software and you want to put that software in front of me to allow me to implant both my knowledge and put a team behind revenue, I'm looking for a product. I'm looking for a company that I can dive into in 2026 and really, really get behind pushing revenue for that company. If that's something you feel excited about, reach out to me. Let's talk.
Thoughts?
I didn't do it. Thought about it, and I was like, I need to do it. And then it was more procrastination after I had to figure out how to get all my. I want to get all, obviously, the business structure that I have down. I got to get everything down there and put it all into it, and then go from there. One of the things I have been learning, though, and spending more time on and watching more AI videos on, is prompting, because I think that's one of the most important things you can learn. Because you can ask as many questions as you want to, but if you're not asking it the right way, you're not going to get what you want out of it. And Rick, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm sure you spend a lot of time learning that also.
Absolutely. I teach my customers a framework called CRAFT, right? So you spoke to it, Matt Uber. It's basically, what's the context? Who are you? What are you going to do for me that I'm asking, right? What's your role? Okay, I need you to help me, build the strategy for the next 5 years for the company. You are the strategic officer and also the CFO, so you got to watch costs. I need you to build me this, and this. So what actions, what format do you want to receive it in? And then finally, what's the target? And if this it really applies more to sales for me, but who am I selling to? So it doesn't matter what framework you use. And some of us, the three of us, are not going to have a problem. We don't need a framework. We're master communicators, right? And one thing I would say, though, is when you ask a tool to do something for you, challenge it. Don't just take, oh, great, that better than I would have done. What did we miss? What else can we do? And then maybe even go second guess it like I do.
Play devil's advocate. What's the logic behind it? Why wouldn't somebody want to do this? Give me the argument on the opposite, like that type of thing, right, Rick?
And we're really scratching the surface on something that it's really, when you talk about disruptive, what's the biggest line item in a company? It's their people, the cost of the people, right? What's the biggest threat when somebody leaves? You lose all that institutional knowledge. So this is solving for that, what we're talking about. And the biggest line item of the biggest line item is your executive team. So I don't think anybody's ever said in a company, gosh, we need more layers of management to reduce those layers. And so it certainly is an opportunity and a threat, possibly at the C level.
So you're using craft, that's your prompting analogy that uses its context.
It's the easiest one for me to convey to people that don't know anything about how
System,
to build.
Yeah.
Context. So you got context, role, actions, format, and target. That's what you spell out on craft, right? Awesome. Yeah.
And by the way, I have I talk about 3 years and 300 sessions. I've distilled all that into a flip book, and this isn't a commercial for it, but it's really my site is a resource hub. If you go to the flip book, it will take you from AI 101. You could take I could take my 10-year-old grandson, get him up to speed to AI 1001 within as fast as he can get through what is basically 100 different pages.
So with your grandson there, I mean, how involved are you?
How old is the grandson, if you don't mind us asking?
He's a
He's
10-year-old, right?
10.
Yeah. So like, because I'm wondering, because me and Matt both have children. We both have kids around the same age. I have a 5-year-old. He has a 5-year-old now. I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And he also have a 2-year-old, almost 2-year-old.
Almost in December. He's
Almost
2
2-year-old.
going on 16, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we have young kids, obviously, and they're going to grow up in a world just run by AI. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be everywhere. So I just want to know, like, what your thoughts on this, on obviously how to protect your kids, because AI can be used in very bad ways, just like any technology on there. Internet, you have to teach them about things on social media and stuff like that, just like you would. How are you protecting them on AI? How are you also, do you have a plan on how you're going to actually get them involved with AI to learn more, so that way when the time that comes to enter the workforce, start their own business, do whatever, that they are fully equipped with it?
Yeah, and those are some of the tools and products that will actually be quite useful. Because it's such a cash grab, everybody's coming in and inventing all kinds of things that aren't useful. But this gets into a whole nother area, which is governance and risk. And it literally is as powerful as nuclear energy. And we've got all kinds of governance and risk protocols around nuclear energy. And the EU is doing a better job than the United States is right now. But that's a big issue. And I'm not sure I even have the answer to that yet. I wouldn't encourage my son to let his 10-year-old to get too far involved with even being online at this point. So there's got to be some guardrails and whatnot. That it gets back to parenting, though. You better know what your kids are doing, because right now the world is at their fingertips, and it's not good.
It's funny that people who are very into technology and know a ton about it tell their children to stay away from it as long as possible for a little while, just because they know the
Yeah, I mean,
dangers of it. Like,
Zuckerberg doesn't have his kids on it. I mean, like, all these people who run these platforms and these social media programs, they tell they avoid it like a plague, because they know how evasive it is to the mind and the growth.
Now, if we can build sandboxes that are built for kids, right, that they can, I can remember calculators coming out and teachers would, "You can't use calculator." Well, next thing you know, 3 years later, they're asking me to buy a $200 calculator for a calculus class. And so certainly building the sandboxes. But as you said earlier, Matt Uber, is that we are so early, and we are in the Model T stage of this. So we're going to learn, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned along the way. But I would agree, be careful and make sure you know what your kids are doing.
I think it goes back to, look, I'm a firm believer in, I don't want my kids to have access to a cell phone, but I also think that as a parent, our job is to prepare our kids to be the best adults. And I think that we can guard our kids from real life. We can guard our kids from the real world, but eventually they're going to be faced with having to deal with the emotional side of dealing in social media, or having to deal with what AI will bring. And I think we're far better off preparing our kids for the world that's coming than to have our kids be unprepared in comparison to their peers. Because for me, and I just adopted this, Rick, and I go on a little bit of a soapbox here right now, but I just adopted this process for my daughter who just turned 5. And I've had this mindset for the past 5 years since my daughter was born, that when my daughter turns 5, I'm going to implement a earn it point system that she has, to where everything she does in her life is earned through a points focused system. And up until she's 5, she could wake up, eat any cookies she wanted, watch as much TV as she wanted. She could go out and play and do with her friends, and anything she wanted. She didn't have to earn anything. Life was given to her. And that the day she turned 5, everything she did, from waking up, making her bed, putting on her clothes, putting on her shoes, feeding the dogs, studying, homework, going to school, every single thing she did, she made points for that. And in order to do the things she wants to do, like going to the park, eating ice cream, watching TV, she has to trade in the exchange of points in return for that. And that's trying to teach her the responsibility of responsibility. And I think that AI, when you raise your kids understanding how to use it as a tool, not a vice, then it could be a valuable tool. But when you use it as a vice and you don't take the time as a parent to spend the time, sit down and teach your kids that it can be a gift and a curse, but how to make it a gift, I think that's where parents who tend to be on autopilot don't spend the time developing their kids and preparing their kids for all of the potential pitfalls and landmines. Rick, you've been down this road, it sounds like, further than Matt and I have. So, I mean, Matt and I love to talk about parenting. We love to talk about parents. The thing that we love about being entrepreneurs and being, independent workers is the fact that we can place our family and a priority over our career. I mean, that's something we've both been gifted to do. Any advice you have for us around that whole thing I just said?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, building better humans as parents is really the safest safeguard you can put in place, right? Compassion, humility, understanding what's out there, not hiding it from them, and I'm not saying give them access to it, but let them know it's a big world with, I've been lucky that my kids, when I hire people, right, one of the things I zero in on is, are they coming in with the things that I would hope that their parents would have taught them? And, I can teach them how to sell, I can teach them about a product, but if they've got humility, if they're humble, if they speak to their failures before they talk about their successes, things like that really get my attention. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I can't say that I have the answer, but I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have the answer, right? And I think we're all just, hopefully, as the people who are raising the future generation, we're all just doing our best. I think we lead with love, but we also, like, the thing I always have to remind myself is, number one, I remind myself this every single day, which is be excited about the child that you're raising. Be excited about what they will become, but don't be in a rush for them to become that. Embrace every day you have while they're here in this place. I know my daughter is a special human being. I know she will be special, but we've got all the time in the world for her to be that. Right now, she's a 5-year-old, and I need to embrace her being 5. And then number 2, my job as a parent is not to be my kid's friend. My job as a parent is to make sure my kid is able to be the most successful, happy, fulfilled adult. And obviously, I would love my kid to want to spend time with me now, but I care more about them wanting to have me around in the 20s because I said the things they needed me to say, not the things they wanted me to say at this pivotal time in their life.
Yeah. And, as you're looking at me on my screen behind me, I've got a plaque from the first team that I coached when my son was 5. And the one above it is a picture of them when they won the city championship when he was 15, I believe. So there's a big story right there. This little thing up here is a little leaf project that my daughter built when she was about 5. And so, I've got 4 kids. They were all I'm a baseball, basketball, football guy, right? My daughter wanted to play. I didn't know anything about soccer, but I got involved. My son wanted to play travel hockey. I didn't know hockey. I became the guy that got all the pucks on the ice. And I was at every game. Whatever they wanted to do, that's what I embraced and helped them enjoy. But we've really gone down a different rabbit hole there.
It's the best one, though. Like I said, we love talking about that. We can talk about it all day. Well, look, a couple of things I want to know before we wrap up here in the next 15 minutes here. What's the plan for Kara now in the next few years coming up? I mean, are you thinking about an exit on this product you built now, or are you thinking about having this long term and then passing it off to somebody else? What's your plan here for it?
I don't want to call it an exit. I love this, right? So I don't even know the answer to that yet. I built one company and we planned on exiting. That I ended up taking a buyout and going to doing something else because I get bored quick. 5 years, 6 years into it, I was bored and I took a package. But I don't know. I'm going to ride it. What's most important to me is I really didn't go into this to make money. I just love AI. I never loved cloud. I never loved as a service. This is just something that interests me. So if I can give back, I started out in that old feature benefit selling model with Pitney Bowes, big worldwide sales training leader. And it's just such a different day and age. And, I can give people perspective of how good they have it today. So at this point, what I want is to give back. And whatever that turns out to be, whatever will be, will be.
I think you'll find that the people who have that mindset you have about it end up being more successful people. Yeah, it's the people who are trying to make a quick dollar that maybe struggle more. And the fact that you're obsessed with it, that you're passionate about it, and that you're putting the work into it to see what happens. I mean, that obviously will be better, beneficial for you in the next however many years, anyways.
Let me add this one thing to what you just said, Rick, because I think it's important for our younger audience who's watching this, who's attempting to potentially go down the path they've gone. And a lot of younger people right now, they make decisions focused on how much money they can make, right? There's not that there's anything wrong with that. There's a place in my career, and I'm sure a place in your career where you made decisions based off of the financial investment or the financial benefit of you. But it sounds like what you've learned, and it sounds like, and I know this is what I've learned, and Matt and I share this aspect. The thing that has filled my cup more than anything is being able to affect other people's future inside a business as well. And there was a period where leaders invested into me and helped me become the leader that I am today. And there's nothing better than when you have an opportunity to do that to the younger generation, to the upcoming generation. And I stress to everybody when I'm having conversations with young people coming out of high school, coming out of college, entering in their career, that yes, it's important for you to make money, but if you actually take the money decisions and put it to the side for the first 5 years of your career and you focus on skill development and network development, if you focus on getting to know as many people and know as many things as possible, then I would almost guarantee anybody who does that will end up making exponentially more money when they focused on skill development and network development in their first 5 years of career. Money will inevitably grow on itself. So as I hear you say that, Rick, is somebody that I get the impression without knowing what's in your bank account, you probably already made money. Now your goal is to duplicate yourself, to share the value that you've learned that probably at one point was imparted on you. Am I accurate in that reading of it?
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's intrinsic in me. I would like to give back at this point. It's been a great ride. I love what I'm doing right now, so I don't know how long I'll be doing it, but hopefully I can. Hopefully, 30 years from now, somebody will say, you know what? I worked with Rick, and I do have people in my life that I was a player coach, right? I provided ground or air cover for my people many times from sea levels or from the board who I knew were doing a good job. So, I operate more from the heart than I ever did in a dollar sign. Money is just energy, right? It gives us an ability to do some things. But if we get hung up on that being the end, it never ends well.
Absolutely not. I think Matt's, what he said earlier, and mine too, our goal with all this in general, being an entrepreneur and making money, was not just so we can buy a bunch of cool stuff and live in a big house. It was so that we could spend whatever time we wanted to do with our family and whatever we wanted to do without having to say, hey, I need to take off for this lunch break, or, or I need to want to go on vacation. I only got a little bit of time to spend on this vacation every year. It was more about freedom for us, and I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs probably go into, and obviously a lot of it comes from their passions, like you, Rick, and is finding out what their passions are. And then in today's world, you can make money from really anything, any passion you have. It's funny, Gary Vee talks about all the time, like you can literally start a gardening channel because you love gardening on Instagram, and next thing you know, you're getting paid thousands and thousands of dollars from these people who want to sponsor you just because you like gardening, right? It's something as simple as that, and never in history could you just make money like that just from being a gardener out in your backyard.
I have to tell you, you gave me an idea though that I'm going to pursue. I haven't even really thought about that the younger folks. So I really want to give that some thought.
Hey,
There's
well,
something to that.
Rick, what I'd
I thought
ask
a lot
of you
about it.
is if you start going down that journey and you find a little bit of traction, let Matt and I know how we can help. And I'm not saying this from a financial perspective. I'm saying this from a give back perspective. And if there's value that we can impart on people, and perspective that we can provide, let us know how we can help. And if that means mentorship, coaching, that's what our whole business is. I mean, our business at Spinwheel is we hire employees that are the future leaders of our organization. And I only believe in hiring entry-level employees. And we have over 50 employees that work for us. In the first year and a half, we've developed over 12 leaders inside of our business. And that is the whole foundation of what we do. The thing that I get the most out of is taking somebody who hasn't yet accomplished what they can be and helping them walk down that journey and become that. In an ideal world, in the next 5 years, Matt and I don't have to run our business because we've developed the leaders who will run our business for us, and are who are excited to do that. So if you go down that route, and I'll offer the same in exchange, if we gain some traction on that along the way, we'll actually, honestly see where you want to come in and help there too.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this we are aligned in so many ways that I don't think this is going to end at the end of this podcast. I certainly think I've met a couple of more allies in my life that I can learn from and work with, and Yeah.
Biggest reason
So
why we do it, brother. That's the number one reason. Like, I mean, every once in a while we end up doing business out of this thing, and that's great. That's awesome. But what we do it is to close gaps on knowledge and to, once again, focus on the development of being and putting ourselves around people we want to be like. And you're definitely somebody who fits that mold. So thank you for giving us the time today, buddy.
I've enjoyed it immensely.
Absolutely. So how do people find out more about you and your business, and if they're looking to hire you, what do they do?
Well, you go to karaadvisors.net. It's KARA advisors.net. I'm on LinkedIn. You'll see all kinds of content coming out. And I can't say it enough. If you really just want to get up to speed on AI, including your kids, just go to the flip book that's right on my site. It's very well curated and presented content. It's the best of the best. And I think, it would, anyone at any level of AI understanding right now would probably do well, at least as a refresher, to go through it.
Go into your website and get on that flip book right after this. So if anybody, thank you guys for watching. If anybody got anything out of this like me and Matt did, I know we did for sure, please like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell icon. We drop these episodes every Friday at 9 o'clock. We will tag all of Rick's social media handles, his website, and everything into the video also. So please check him out, send him some messages, and hopefully do some business with him. Thank you so much, Rick.
Yeah, thanks,
Have a good
guys.
one.
Appreciate it. Thank you.